Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really common for English learners, right?
Definitely. That habit of translating everything back to your native language in your head.
Exactly. It's almost, well, universal, especially when you're starting out.
It really is. It's like you know the recipe, you have the ingredients, but before you cook, you mentally rewrite that recipe. It just adds this extra, sometimes exhausting layer.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that's what we want to dig into today. Our mission is to explore some, practical ways to move past that constant translation.
And start actually thinking in English.
Right. We got some really good insights here drawn from an English coach and one of her students, Jake. Real world stuff.
And making that shift, learning to think directly in English, that's so fundamental for real fluency, for sounding natural.
It explains that frustration, doesn't it? Knowing the words, knowing the grammar, but still feeling slow or stilted.
Mm-hmm. It often comes right back to that internal translation. It acts like a bottleneck.
Okay, so let's unpack that bottleneck idea. What's the real downside beyond just, feeling a bit sluggish in conversation?
Well, the most obvious thing is speed, that mental back and forth, the translation juggle. It takes time, precious seconds.
And in a real conversation, that lag can just kill the flow.
Absolutely. You might miss what the other person is saying while you're busy translating your own response.
hmm
And we saw this in the source material. You can even just lose your train of thought completely. Forget what you wanted to say.
Yeah, Jake, the student we mentioned, that was definitely his experience. He actually had good English vocabulary, grammar, but when he had to speak on the spot or felt any
The
pressure,
translation kicked back in.
exactly, it just slowed him right down.
Frustrating.
Totally. So, okay, if that's the problem, this mental translation habit, how do we start, breaking it down? What are the first steps?
Well, a key starting point seems to be consciously trying to rely less on direct translation tools,
hmm
dictionaries, apps, that sort of thing. Right. Now, this isn't saying never use a dictionary again. That's not realistic.
No, definitely not. But it's about not using them as a constant crutch for every single unfamiliar word.
Yeah, the shift is towards engaging with the English itself to figure things out, like guessing from context, using the words around the new word.
Or looking up definitions in English, English to English.
Exactly, because those activities force your brain to operate within English. Instead of always taking that detour back to your native language, you start building direct connections.
hmm It's like paving new neural pathways, right? Where the English word connects directly to the meaning, no middleman language needed.
Precisely.
hmm
And a really powerful way to forge those pathways, according to our sources, is immersion,
Ah, yes, immersion. It comes up so often in language learning.
because it works.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with English creates this constant learning environment. It's not just about study time anymore.
And the sources gave some really practical examples. Jake, for instance, found watching shows he liked.
In English, right?
Yeah, in English, but with English subtitles on. That really helped him.
That's a great one. Also, things like listening to podcasts,
Like this one.
hopefully, or reading similar English books, articles online, even if you don't understand every single word.
That's a crucial point, isn't it? That partial understanding is still beneficial.
Hugely beneficial. Your brain is amazing at soaking things up subconsciously. Patterns, rhythm, intonation. Even if you're not actively trying, it's absorbing the language.
It's like learning to swim. You mentioned that analogy before. You don't analyze every ripple.
You just get in the water and start getting a feel for it. Your brain does the same with language immersion.
Okay, so immersion is big. Now, there was this other technique mentioned that I found really fascinating. Mental narration.
Ah, yes. This one's great because it's so low pressure.
Tell us about it. What is it exactly?
It's basically describing your everyday life and actions to yourself, silently, in your head, but using English. So like the examples given. You're cooking, you think, okay, I need to chop the onions now, or let's boil the water. Getting dressed, I'll wear the blue shirt today.
So you're kind of verbalizing your internal monologue, but switching the language to English.
Exactly. And what's clever is that it helps you internalize sentence structures, word order, common verbs, all in context, almost without thinking about grammar rules.
It sounds almost simple, but I can see how that would start training your brain to default to English for those routine thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Jake mentioned it felt a bit silly at first, though.
Oh, totally normal. It will likely feel strange or unnatural initially. But the key is, it's private. It's just you and your brain practicing.
No judgment.
None at all. The goal is just consistency, making it a habit.
Okay, so building on that, the sources also talked about actual verbal self-talk. Speaking out loud.
Yeah, taking that mental narration one step further.
That seems like a bigger leap.
It is, maybe. But it engages the physical act of speaking. So you could be talking to yourself in the mirror, maybe asking and answering questions about your day.
Like, what did I do today? Well, first I comb, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Or pretend you're explaining something you learned. It builds confidence in actually producing the sounds, forming the sentences out loud.
It's like a rehearsal then, for real conversations. A safe space to practice.
That's a great way to think about it. Practice getting the words out, building that fluency muscle. Again, might feel weird, but the payoff for smoother speaking seems worth it.
Okay. And connecting to that idea of structuring thoughts, what about writing? Journaling came up.
Yes, journaling in English, a really valuable tool.
How does that help with thinking in English specifically?
Well, when you write, especially something like a journal entry about your day or your thoughts, you have to organize those ideas directly in English.
Right, you're choosing the words, structuring the sentences in English from the start.
You bypass the translation step differently than with speaking, but just as effectively. One source called it a warm-up for the brain.
Oh, warm up. I like that.
Yeah. Consistently organizing your thoughts in written English can definitely feed into better speaking fluency over time. Your brain gets primed.
Interesting. Now, let's shift gears slightly. There was a more passive strategy mentioned, environmental cues.
Ah, the sticky notes. Yeah, this is clever.
It seems so simple but effective.
I think so. Just labeling everyday objects around you. Put a sticky note saying window on the window, desk on the desk, lamp on the lamp.
So you're just constantly seeing the English words for things in your environment.
Exactly. It becomes this passive reinforcement. Every time you glance at the lamp, you see the word lamp. It drills vocabulary in a really natural, low-effort way.
It's about saturating your environment, isn't it? Making English visible.
Mm-hmm. But that raises a question. What if your environment isn't English speaking? If you live somewhere where you rarely hear or see English?
That's a huge challenge for many learners. How do you create immersion then?
It is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, technology offers a lot of answers now. You can create a virtual English-heavy environment.
Okay, how? What did the sources suggest?
Things that are pretty accessible, actually. Following English-speaking YouTubers or content creators you enjoy.
So curating your social media feed?
Yeah. Listening to English music, but maybe actively looking up the lyrics, trying to understand them.
Uh-huh.
Joining online communities or forums where people chat in English, language exchange sites, things like that.
And Jake's example was quite powerful, changing his phone language.
Right. Switching the operating system on your phone or computer to English. That's full digital immersion.
He said it was tough at first, disorienting.
I bet. Suddenly all your menus, your apps, everything is in English. You're forced to navigate it.
But eventually,
It just became normal for him. He stopped noticing it, which shows how adaptable our brains are.
that's really encouraging. And I guess underlying all these specific techniques is the big message.
Patience and consistency.
Absolutely. This isn't a switch you flip overnight. Thinking in English is a skill.
And like any skill, it develops gradually, with regular practice, daily if possible, even for short periods.
There will be days when it feels easier, days when it feels harder.
For sure. And the sources wisely noted that even when you're making good progress, you'll probably still catch yourself translating sometimes. That's okay.
It doesn't mean you're failing.
Not at all. In fact, noticing when you're translating, that's actually a good sign. It means you're becoming more aware of your own mental processes. You're noticing the shift.
That makes sense. So let's quickly recap the main strategies we've dug into today.
Okay, so number one, consciously use translation tools less. Try context and English definitions first.
2, immerse yourself. Shows, podcasts, reading, music. Surround yourself with English.
3, practice mental narration. Describe your day silently in English in your head.
4, try verbal self-talk. Speak your thoughts out loud in English sometimes.
5, keep an English journal. Write down your thoughts directly in the language.
6, use those environmental cues. Label things around you. Sticky notes are your friend.
7, leverage technology. Change device language. Follow English content. Join online groups. Create that virtual immersion.
And the overarching theme.
Patience and consistent practice. Start small.
Yeah, don't feel you have to do everything at once. Maybe just pick one thing. Try thinking in English while you make breakfast tomorrow.
Exactly. Narrate making your coffee or tea. Okay, pouring the water.
Small steps. But with that consistent effort, thinking directly in English will start to feel more natural over time.
Hmm. And that shift really is the key to unlocking that next level of fluency, sounding more like a native speaker and just feeling more comfortable and confident using the language.
It really changes your relationship with the language, doesn't it? When it stops being a translation exercise and starts being the language you actually think in, that's the goal.